All right, so here we are with Bree of Paddington Pups. I heard that you guys were flooded in the recent floods.
Yeah, we were very flooded. We went nearly 3 meters underwater.
3 meters. So what did that mean for your business?
It's been a unique journey.
First of all, did you know you were going to be flooded?
Not really, no. On the Tuesday, they'd started talking about there being some potential flooding for Brisbane. They weren't expecting it to be anything major, not to panic, anything like that. We noticed that there was a couple of streets behind where our business is, that there was some streets that were being flooded and were starting to be affected. So I made the call to evacuate our dogs, and as a precautionary measure we evacuated the dogs. We went home thinking, yeah, it should be okay. They were telling us not to expect
anything. So hang on a
Thursday.
second. When you said you had an evacuation plan?
Yes.
Already set up before the floods came around?
Yep.
So why would you have an evacuation plan?
Because I worry about the safety and well-being of my puppies. If we've got 40 dogs in, it's important to make sure that they are safe and that we can get them in and out safely, the safety of my dogs is paramount.
But I'd venture to guess if there's 100 doggy daycares in Australia, that you'd probably be the only one, or only a handful of doggy daycares that actually would have an evacuation plan.
Yes.
So with this evacuation plan, how long did it take you to actually clear out 40 dogs?
Yep. As it wasn't a fire emergency and we had a bit of time, we managed to evacuate 35 daycare dogs and 6 grooming dogs, so a total of 41 dogs in an hour and a half.
In an hour and a half?
Yes.
That's an incredible task.
Safely home to their parents, off the premises.
So take me through that process. What did you have to do? When did you make the decision?
Sure. We made the decision about 12:30. They were expecting a 2 o'clock peak, which was not meant to be anything to worry about again, but it was a high tide, was due at 2 o'clock. So once we'd made the call, 12:30 to get the dogs out, we started shutting down the computer system, calling the parents, making sure that everybody knew to come get their dogs, get them home, get them safe, to make sure that,
So you had contact numbers for everybody?
We had contact numbers for everybody.
And you make that a prerequisite when someone signs up?
And not only do we have people's contact numbers, we have an emergency contact number as well, so we have a fallback number.
So that was on the Tuesday?
Yes.
And so you got flooded on Tuesday?
No. We were flooded Wednesday morning at least by 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I was back here at 3 a.m. wondering where we were at, and we were already a metre underwater by 3 a.m.
So you lost everything. You lost all your inventory, all of your machinery, all of your stock. No?
No.
So how was that? Everything kind of floated and you just gathered it up after the flood?
Not at all. Aside from evacuating the dogs, I made sure that my staff that needed to get home, that thought they might have issues of getting home, went home and were safe. We closed and shut the shop after we'd evacuated the dogs, and I went home and had a look at some of the news and where things were going. We weren't getting the same sort of information on the radio that we had here as we were on the television. After they started talking about higher levels of flooding, I made the decision, even though other businesses around had made decisions to come back the Wednesday and the Thursday and to move stock up primarily on the Wednesday, I decided that I didn't want to wait until Wednesday to find out if we thought we might be flooded or not, and I would rather over-exaggerate rather than under-exaggerate. So I called some of my staff to come back down and help, and my husband, myself, and a couple of my staff, and anyone that was walking past the street saw that we were doing and asked if we wanted help, helped us move all of our stock upstairs. We saved 95% of all of our stock and inventory. The only stuff that we didn't save was stuff that was damaged or got dropped in the move or was just physically too big or we couldn't move our freezer stuff.
So as you were doing this and your neighbors saw you, obviously you saved all of their businesses because they would have moved all of their stuff as well.
No.
No?
No. unfortunately. The cafe next door to us, they went home and chose not to move anything. By 9 a.m. on the Wednesday morning, when I came back and saw that we were well and truly underwater, they were wading through water up to their chest in different parts to try and save anything that they could that hadn't got wet yet.
But I'm sure they were the only ones who didn't take action, because everyone else...
No, the business just down from the cafe, the one that's next door to us as well, they lost a car, a whole lot of equipment. They didn't...
But the car, for listeners, the car would have just been a car that's being repaired. It's not a car you could just drive away.
No, they're a tinted car business, so they tint windows, and it was their company car that had all their sign writing on it and everything. It was in the flood. That
they didn't just drive away to higher ground. They just left it there and it was flooded.
Yep, left it there along with a lot of other stuff. The owner, the manager for the business, the car business, came in and they pulled, I said, do you need any help? Have you getting everything important out? He took his computer and that was about it. Some computer, some paperwork.
So what advice would you have for business owners in view of future flooding? What would be your recommendation based on your experience?
Be prepared. It is better to over-exaggerate than under-exaggerate. Even when I thought I was over-exaggerating, there were areas where we definitely didn't take enough stuff upstairs and different, there was equipment that we lost just because we didn't, we didn't think that it was going to be damaged, or that we thought slow rising water wasn't going to be a problem. I've lost all of our internal racking and our display shelves and things that we had stock on for our merchandising. I was expecting water to come through. It's metal, it's coated metal, it should be okay. But whatever was in the mud and the water, within a few days, even after being cleaned, it's all rusted, so it's all had to be discarded anyway. Had I have known stuff like that, I would have just taken, I thought I'd gutted the place before the floods, but even now, my damage bill is in the tens of thousands of dollars, even though I'd taken all the precautions I thought that I needed to.
So how high did the water go based on the sign that's behind you?
On the sign behind me? See the Riding Puppy Preschool?
Yep.
That was underwater.
Wow.
It was between Puppy Preschool and Doggy Daycare.
Yep.
And that's as far as I can tell, because I couldn't get back here to judge the damage and how high it was during the peak. That's from a staff member telling me from nearly a kilometre away and the photos that they could take.
So when you actually did get flooded,
yes.
What happened then? What happened with your clients and friends and family that stood by and saw this happen? Did they jump in, or did they just kind of look in awe and kind of sit back and see what would happen?
Look, there was a bit of both, and there was a lot of kind of uncertainty going on. We made sure that our clients were updated as much as we could with keeping information on our blog and our Facebook page of where we're at and what was going on. So, it was a bit apparent if anyone tried to drop their dog off that they couldn't get in. I had the phones redirected to my mobile so I could talk to people that were calling us.
So how helpful were your clients when push came to shove and you needed hands on deck?
My clients were amazing, absolutely amazing. When the water receded, that was really the first time that we could do anything. So we had a few days when we were stuck in turmoil of, I'm stuck at home, I don't know how badly damaged everything is, where you would think that you can't do anything but sit at home and stress. We got a lot of stuff done in that period, but we also had people, as soon as the water receded and we let people know that we were open, I had clients here in handfuls just scrubbing walls and washing down benching and fencing and cleaning everything that you can think of and getting in there.
So in total, how many people do you think rolled up their sleeves to give you a hand in total?
In total?
Yeah, 20, 30, 50?
200.
200?
Yeah.
200 people in total came to your assistance when you were flooded. 200.
Yeah.
How many clients would you have in total?
We've got nearly 500 on our database.
So that's 40% or almost half of all of your clients rolled up their sleeves to give you a hand.
Yep.
Why do you think you have such great client loyalty? Because I'm sure anybody who's watching this, either they're your clients or thinking of becoming a client or someone else running a business, how do you even put that into words, what that meant to you as a business person and why you get such support and when you need it the most?
It was a very humbling experience. I like to think that we get the support from our clients because we look after them and their dogs, but we treat them as friends and family. There's a large percentage of our clients that I know by name. I know all of their dogs by name. All of my staff do. We get to know what's their favourite toy, what's their all sorts of things. So we know their dogs and the owners quite well.
Sure, but they could have stayed home and just, sent you emails.
Yep.
But they came here helping, and 200 is a huge number. I mean, that makes a difference between a catastrophe and a chance to basically renovate your business.
We had a lot of support as well. We let people know that we were flooded. We let people know when and how they could help. We let people know when they could come in to assist us. And there was in Brisbane an overwhelming level of support. Not all of those 200 people would have been clients directly. A large proportion of them were, but we had a lot of just random volunteers in helping out, helping to clean things, getting in and wanted to assist. I think as a business, we probably got better usage of our volunteers than a lot of other places. On the Friday was the first day that we could get in. We had a lot of people, and I just noticed there was a lot of people coming in that were free, that couldn't get to their own businesses or lived in the area that just wanted to help. And I was aware that people were helping beyond what I could kind of handle with. And I was very aware of that. So for the Saturday, when I knew that we would get a similar sort of inpouring of people to help, I tried to coordinate as best I could. I went to my local office supply store and got big bits of butcher paper and pens so that we could write all over it jobs that needed to be done, because when you've got that many people helping, people start not knowing what to do sooner rather than later,
So if you had to say something to all those people who helped you, because this is an opportunity for you to say thank you, how would you say that? Because I know you've had the opportunity to do that, but how would you summarize what that meant to you as a person, as a business owner, and just as a first time business that's been through something as eventful as this obviously was for you?
For me, I can't express how truly grateful I am. There are so many times when I would just burst into tears because of all the help. I could see my fences again. I could, little things I could see out of my windows. I could, mud was being cleaned. Someone cleaned my bathroom, and it was just, someone cleaning your bathroom is great, but someone cleaning your bathroom when it's under 10 centimetres of the most gross mud you can think of is just... What do you say to that, It's a wonderful thing, and I'm so pleased to have been a part of it, even though that sounds, that's a really strange thing to say, because it has not been a fun journey by any stretch of the imagination, but the people that have helped me have been amazing, and just, all the love in the world to them, because it's,
What's a personal lesson that you think you learned from either taking action early or how you dealt with it, through the whole week and a half to 2 weeks that this was at its peak?
Taking action early was huge. Things like, while the water was still up, contacting my insurer, my landlord, meant that we had building contractors here a day or two after we could get in. It meant that our walls could be replaced. It meant that things were done and on top of things. Being organised and thinking, okay, well, what am I going to need next, meant that while the water was still up, I was out buying gumboots and had people buying gumboots and sponges and cleaning material for me. When and I'm telling other businesses and friends that I had that I knew were affected to do the same thing, and only to find out the day that they can get in that they can't get gumboots, they can't get cleaning equipment, they can't get sponges, everything's sold out from Bunnings, it's, and all the other supply stores. It's empty, they can't do anything there. Whereas we already had it and we were on to the next thing. Okay, what am I going to need next? Okay, well, we've got the cleaning equipment, what am I going to need after that?
So how has your business recovered? Obviously this is being recorded just a couple weeks after the event. How has it rebounded from a sales perspective and a client relationship perspective?
Yep, client relationships are really fantastic. That has strengthened orders of magnitude. Business-wise, the first few weeks, the biggest challenge we had was getting people back into the habit and getting people back into coming in. So the first 2 weeks the business was probably 20-25% down on average, only a week or two after we'd reopened. Now, 3 or 4 weeks after we've been able to be re-established, our retail side of the business has improved and is above where it is. As far as sales go, we're nearly at our average daily takings through the till sales wise, but we're still probably down 10 dogs a day in daycare. So the business, the core part of the business in the daycare hasn't fully recovered yet, but today is one of the first days we've had back to our normal dog numbers. We've had maybe 2 or 3 of those, and it's 3-4 weeks since it's happened.
What have you learned from the interruption in your business when you have the opportunity to stand back and to literally do a before and after analysis of, well, this is how it was, and then the flood came, and what it is now? And I know this is fresh, this is being recorded just a couple weeks after, but just from what you've been able to see, the difference between the before and after, what has that taught you about your particular business, and also about the difference between working in your business and on your business?
During the floods, I already knew that I had fabulous staff. During the floods, I really saw how much underutilized or underappreciated at times they were. I had staff step up doing amazing things, getting stuff done, getting things organized, taking control of things in areas that ordinarily they wouldn't have been given that responsibility and that level of, I suppose, responsibility. And since then, I've changed my organisational structure to reward and encourage more of that sort of behaviour.
Now, without naming names, because what the question I'm going to ask you now, you had neighbours.
Yes.
Who didn't take action.
No.
Business people who've been in business probably a lot longer than you have.
Yep.
And you don't seem to be like a fearful type person, are you? No. So it's not because you were fearful, but what made you, do you think, take action on something that when I was watching this in Sydney, and we were back and forth on email to find out if you were actually in the flood zone, but here you have a neighbor, and again, without naming any names or identifying the business, what do you think made them totally disregard what the whole country realized was something that was so out of the ordinary? And with the 1974 floods, obviously, there was some previous benchmark, because everybody knew what the 1974 flood areas were. But what do you think, from a business perspective or from a personal perspective, made them just basically shrug it off and not take action? Did they not take it seriously, or?
I'm not sure. There wasn't a huge amount of notice for this area and for what people were prepared for. I think people underestimated it.
But when you started to take action, and someone's watching you clean everything out, putting it onto the second floor,
and they choose to leave their car still in their business.
Yeah, in their business, and they didn't drive it literally up the hill, which would have taken at least 3 or 4 minutes. Why do you think that happened?
I like to think it's because I think a little bit differently. I've been working with you for quite a while now, and I kind of think of different scenarios. Okay, well, what happens if? If it's as bad as they say, if it's even close to as bad as it says, I would rather be thinking I was over prepared for it, and taking action and doing stuff rather than just doing nothing and waiting to see where the pennies fall. I mean, I've saved a cost price of stock, $45,000-$50,000 worth of stock, just in the simple fact that we moved it upstairs. And it took us an hour and a half, 4 people, to take all of our stock upstairs.
Yeah, so basically an hour and a half to 2 hours, you saved $50,000 worth of inventory.
I mean, it wasn't cute. We put it in plastic bags, and we just garbage bags and took it upstairs and dumped it there. It was
I saw the pictures,
not organised.
But I think you'd agree with me that that picture is a lot prettier than the alternative, having all of that floating around your premises.
Yeah, it would be almost impossible for me to recover within a 12 to 18-month period if all of my stock had been lost. Yeah. It would take me nearly 2 years to get back to just where I am if I'd lost all my stock. Yeah. Regardless of insurance, of anything else, it's so hard to recover from that. So
out of all the people that were in the neighborhood, the businesses, what do you think the percentage of people who actually took action versus the people who just basically sat back and let things happen?
I would say maybe 5% of people took action.
Really? Yeah. Do you think that that's because they didn't take it seriously, or just because they just didn't think of it?
Both.
Yeah?
Both.
And again, it's a value judgment, but what would you think more? Is it more that you just weren't thinking in that mindset versus not taking it seriously? Think back at when this was happening. Did you really think that they just shrugged it off, or they just weren't open to that consideration?
I don't think a lot of them were open to the consideration, even though it was on the radio and it was on the TV and it was, starting, by the time we came back to move stock, they were starting to talk about 1974 flood levels, and admittedly, I didn't know what those levels were, but I can tell you I came straight back to my business and started asking the old guy that lives across the street and anyone that I knew that might have any indication. The people in the car business just down from us, I spoke to the gentleman, he's gone, oh yes, it went up to that line all the way up there in 74. I'm like, okay, do you need help getting stuff out? No, I've got the computer, we're okay. So
I mean, people listening to this thinking that the person didn't even move the car kind of makes you wonder. But then again, if you're not thinking in that way, you're just not thinking that way. So looking at the future now.
But just an aside, out of all the businesses on the entire street that I'm on, I'm the only one that moved my stock, but didn't just move it, that moved it high enough to actually save it.
Yeah, because moving
so I'm the only one that moved it high enough to save it. I know the people on the other side of me moved their stuff up about 1 metre, which was about 2 metres too low. But I was the only one that moved it high enough, and as it was, the water level came up and saved all of my stock by about 40 centimetres. But that 40 centimetres has saved all my stock.
So when you see this transition from the before and after the flood, what do you see your business benefits, if you will, because it's hard to believe that there'd be benefits in this, but there are benefits. One is, I noticed inside that you have better racking, you have better shelving. You obviously have excellent relationships with your suppliers, so they tell me a little bit about what that meant from a rejuvenation, if you will, or a revitalization of your business, and the opportunity that's given you to make some of the changes that you've been wanting to make. Your front counter, for example, and a few other little things.
I tried to see it as an opportunity as much as I could, even though days it didn't feel like it. I've had my floors professionally redone. They are better than ever and safer for the dogs than they've been before. I've had new racking put into my business on both sides, some that suppliers have sourced for me and some that I've had to get myself, that looks 1,000 times better. I've had my countertop shop fitted to exactly custom made to how I need it. The business itself is a lot, by the time we're finished, is going to be a lot sexier than what it was beforehand. Instead of having it grow just as we've needed to, the business has been able to be shaped the way that I've wanted it to. Some of my suppliers have been absolutely amazing, others have been not so amazing. The suppliers that have been amazing, I've let them know that they get my support unconditionally, and obviously with their products and stuff like that, but the ones that are good and they have good products, they get a lot more they're going to get a lot more support. And there are a couple of ranges and suppliers that I'm just cutting out altogether.